And that was being cut off funding from INAC because we dared implement Indian control of education and our own form of government under our own laws and jurisdiction. 3 times in 1 year. But I accessed funding from Canada Manpower back then. They had programs called Flip, Flop, and Leap with $500,000 per year for 5 years. And I accessed funding from those sources under that fiscal agreement, not any contribution agreement. And we went from 2 employees of a band administrator and welfare administrator to 165 employees in 6 weeks. We introduced a degree program for teacher ed and social work right in our community and our school. And a mother and daughter graduated with their degree in social work at the same time. Now you see, that's 1972. And I told Miller, and now the new Minister of Indigenous Services, had you, Section 35 now, one of the Constitution Act of 1982, opens up the door for us to access our financing from all your federal ministers and departments, including Treasury Board and Finance. So you have a multi-million-dollar transfer from the feds to the provinces and territories, a social transfer fund, major supplementary in the health sector for hospitals, Medicare, insured dental and optometrist care, levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 care and special needs in health, social development transfer for elders care, home care, child welfare. The provinces don't put any money into child welfare. That's all federally transferred funding from the feds to the provinces. Levels 1, 2, 3, 4 care and social development and special needs. Now you see, just those 2 sectors, levels 1, 2, 3, 4 care, overlaps in health and social development. How? With jurisdictional disputes and fiscal disputes. That's why we have a major gap in the standard of programs and services to Indians both on and off reserves. The other 4th sector of the transfer from the feds to the provinces, financing of universities and colleges. And they have a degree scholarship program for PhDs and so on, minimum $70,000 a year. And when we investigated, only 1 Indian qualified nationally for that scholarship. Yet we're short post-secondary funding for our own students and our own people. So when you look at that process, then the other category is what I call income security, your child tax credit. And when your mom and dad filled out the child tax credit for the child tax credit application, they weren't told that they were agreeing to have to pay GST. And when we look at that whole process, then it includes pension plans, the Quebec Canada pension plan. Trudeau was calling for an improvement in pension plans. Why can't we have a Canada First Nations pension plan? EI funding for unemployment insurance still applies today. And then for the veterans, that needs to be improved for programming for the veterans. Not just through that source, but from other funding from other ministries for the programs and services and support that our veterans need today. So when we look at that whole process of the federal transfer from the feds to the provinces, I helped draft and develop our own social safety net that we implement between the federal government and our governments, our institutions, and our individuals and families, with direct transfers from the feds to our governments and our institutions and our people, bypassing the province, elevating and providing that major supplementary money to our own people and communities and our governments. Just recently, the Prime Minister and the First Ministers met regarding the shortage of funding in primary health care. And the feds allocated $969 billion over 10 years to provincial primary health care in their systems. Well, we as First Nations only get public health care funding. We don't get primary health care funding. And that $669 billion, no mention of any funding from the primary health care funding flowing to our nations for our primary health care funding and needs. Why? That's just a standard colonial financing process that they use to finance their governing systems and their multi-billion-dollar funding needs to maintain their standard of living. There's nothing wrong with us converting and transferring all that money from the feds directly to our own programs and services that we need, including our institutions that need similar financing. Nothing at all.